Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State has finally dumped the PDP. He's announced his movement to the All Progressives Congress APC. And senators approved President Bola Tinubu's request for military intervention in Benin Republic. But what are the implications of that intervention on the military coup attempt on Nigeria? Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I am Sean Okimale, right here in Abuja. Let's begin with perhaps one of the biggest stories today, politically speaking. It's something that a lot of people will say, we saw it coming. Well, the governor had come to Abuja, met with President Bola Tinubu. He's gone back to Port Harcourt in Rivers State, and he's made this decision, and he's made an announcement after months and months of political turmoil in that state. And that decision has been made. Governor Siminalayi Fubara, the governor of Rivers State, has dumped the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and has moved to the All Progressives Congress, APC. He made the announcement earlier today at the government house in Port Harcourt in a stakeholders meeting. Let me allow you to listen to the reasons Governor Fubara gave for dumping the PDP.
I was with Mr. President yesterday to brief you on the situation of things in our state, which I believe he has taken note and is going to act swiftly on it. But the most interesting part of the meeting is that what you all have been waiting for, what you've been asking me, the signal has finally arrived. Our only thank you to Mr. President is to support him. And we cannot support Mr. President in isolation. And we can't support Mr. President if we don't fully identify with him, not backyard support. So we have taken that decision today since we've gotten a pass. Everyone here who have followed me, who have suffered with me, our decision today, this evening, we are moving to APC.
That song may have originated from the political corridors in Lagos, transported to Abuja, and is looking like a song that will now be popular in Rivers State. Interesting times, politically speaking. Well, that's maybe another conversation for another day, but Governor Fubara is the newest governor to have now joined forces with President Bola Tinubu and the APC. But there's so much more to talk about tonight, because when the president made a decision to take a military action in another country, what does this mean? Did he get a permission? Does the law allow him to be able to send forces on another country? We're finding out what exactly this means. What is a threat of a coup d'etat in Benin Republic? Are there implications for Nigeria? These are some things that we'll be breaking down for you tonight on the program. So stick around with me. I will tell you much more about some other stories that you need to know on our political roundup.
The Economic Community of West African State, ECOWAS, has declared a state of emergency across the region. The president of the ECOWAS Commission, Mr. Omar Toure, made the announcement during the 55th session of the Mediation and Security Council at the ministerial level in Abuja. Mr. Toure said recent developments underline the imperative of serious introspection on the future of our democracy and the urgent need to invest in the security of our community. The federal government says preserving institutional memory is essential to tackling policy inconsistencies and strengthening national development, and is seeking closer partnerships with the Council of Retired Federal Permanent Secretaries. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, made this comment at the 2025 Annual Dinner and Awards of the Council of Retired Federal Permanent Secretaries in Abuja. He described the council as a national asset with decades of experience as key to better governance and public sector reforms. The Inspector General of Police, Kelde Betokun, is asking police public relations officers across the country not to remain silent in the face of misinformation, warning that false narratives now spread too quickly for the Nigerian police force to ignore. Speaking at the 2025 Nigerian Police Force Public Relations Officers Conference in Abuja, Mr. Betokun says modern policing now relies heavily on transparent communication and public engagement. The IGP explains that the force headquarters cannot respond to every circulating falsehood, but PROs must act swiftly at the point where misinformation emerges, as they now operate on the front line in an information environment dominated by false narratives, manipulated visuals, and rapidly circulating online content. Lastly, ahead of the 2027 general elections, some members of the All Progressives Congress APC in Anambra State, under the umbrella of the APC Liberation Movement, are appealing to President Bola Tinubu to strengthen the party in the state, restore confidence among loyal members by showing fairness in the distribution of federal appointments. Addressing a news conference in Abuja after a peaceful gathering in front of the national headquarters of the party, the convener of the movement, Mr. Francis Okoye, says appointment slots meant for Anambra APC members have been consistently diverted to non-party members, inconsistent party actors, and new entrants at the expense of genuine grassroots and loyal members of the party.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. That is it, the political roundup for you, and now you're up to speed. Let me now bring you perhaps one of the stories that will interest everyone. The request of the president to the National Assembly. Today, a request of the president was approved by the Nigerian Senate. The president requesting the approval of the National Assembly for deployment of military forces, Nigerian military forces, to Benin Republic. Let me allow you to see how that went on the floor of the Senate today.
In order to ensure peace and avoid unconstitutional seizure of power, disruption and destabilization of democratic institutions, and he has sought for the consent of the Nigerian Senate for actions both to regularize and also to ensure that the consent of the Senate is obtained. Will the Senate approve the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to deploy Nigerian troops to the Republic of Benin for peace mission? Those in support say aye. And those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The ECOWAS standby forces are also prepping up to move into that country and restore peace after we saw on Sunday what has become a major shocker for that country, and President Talon and the rest are making effort in stabilizing that country. But what is the implication for Nigeria as a country that not only by population but by military power and capacity and of course economic prowess, Nigeria is a major force on the continent. Let's look at the legality, the actions of President Bola Tinubu, and I'll be speaking tonight with our former president of the African Bar Association, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, who is live for us virtually from Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Falana, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sean.
It looks like your background shows as though you are in a beach enjoying your time. December is here, and Dirty December, you know the location is in Lagos. So I hope that you're not on some Epstein island or some. But it's good to see you, Mr. Faladum. It's not a funny matter, and it's not a joke at all. When we're seeing this kind of scenario, nothing less than 4 countries on the West African region are now under military takeover, military rule. We've seen Chad, we've seen Niger, we've seen Equatorial Guinea, we've seen, Guinea-Bissau, and we're now seeing a situation in Benin Republic. And there are rumors that has happened also about Nigeria and the attempted coup, and some soldiers that are now in custody for investigation. But legally speaking, there are those who will say it does look like the president had acted before the request. Does the law permit him? Do we have the powers to be able to send troops on the ground? Is it for peace mission or what? Or what we're showing military power? What exactly do you make of this, legally speaking, of course?
Well, I think there are 2 issues here. Whereas the Constitution has empowered the president to seek the consent of the Senate before declaring a war against any country. But what we are being told now is that this is a peace mission in line with the protocol on democracy and good governance ECOWAS. Even at that, Section 12 of the Constitution equally requires the president to seek the authorization of the National Assembly to have any agreement domesticated. But I think what has happened here is a situation whereby it may be argued that the events in Benin Republic have implications for the security of Nigeria, and therefore Nigeria will intervene. But there are moral problems, very serious moral and political problems. Yes, whereas the Senate has ratified the intervention of Nigeria in Benin Republic last Sunday, and according to the Senate, to promote peace in that country. Can you promote peace without justice? And we had a meeting in Ghana last Saturday, where Frontline was celebrating Dr. Mohamed Ibn Chambers, former president of the ECOWAS Commission. And made the point that apart from Cape Verde and Senegal, that have not experienced any coup in West Africa, Ghana has joined the League of Stable Democracies, in the few stable democracies in the region. Now, for others, we have serious problems. Therefore, if you are going to help another country to stabilize, you must ensure that democracy in your own country is institutionalized. What is going on in West Africa today? It's not just enough for the Senate to vote as the members did today without analyze what happened in the Republic. An otherwise stable country. How did that country experience a coup in 2024 and a coup in 2025? Is that can Nigeria really stop coups in any of these neighboring countries, even in Nigeria? Because in October this year, there was an attempted coup. In Sierra Leone, in December 2023, there was an attempted coup. Today, Guinea-Conakry, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are under the jump, under military jump. Now, on Saturday, we still predicting a crime that some of the countries were likely to collapse. The rickety democratic systems in these countries might collapse. And I mentioned Benin Republic, where all the opposition figures are either in jail, in exile, or in their graves. In Togo since 1963, has had two presidents, Eyadema the first, Eyadema the second. In July this year, 4 Eyadema or Nasibe amended the constitution of that country and removed time limit completely, no limitation as to how long he can be in power. His father was in power between 1963 and 2005. He has been in power since 2005 for 20 years. He has now amended the constitution to allow him to remain in power indefinitely. The guy in Cote d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara, at the age of 83, has just been sworn in for a 4th term. He manipulated the constitution of that country to have himself in power for a 4th term, not just a 3rd term, 4th. Now, what did he do? He jailed his opponents and banned them from contesting the elections with him. This is the picture. So Nigeria clearly has his job cut out for it. If you want to stop coups, you must ensure that you allow political pluralism in Nigeria. You cannot have a situation where the country is moving inexorably to becoming a one-party state. Then you want to export democracy as it were. There are problems. So Nigeria has to put its house in order by allowing political pluralism. You must allow the opposition to be able to contest election in a credible manner. And this is a problem in Africa today, whereby the ruling parties, directly or indirectly, ban opposition political parties, render them impotent, so that they cannot challenge you. You know what has just happened in Tanzania, where Madam Hassan charged the opposition leader with treason to have an election. In Uganda, Museveni, who has been passed since 1986, decided to abduct the opposition leader, in Nairobi, and have him driven recklessly to Kampala, where he was charged before a military tribunal.
Let me jump in quickly. Are you worried? Are you afraid that this attempt in Benin Republic, in terms of military action or military coup, may not be the last?
No, it won't be the last. I'm familiar with the political terrain. And I'm telling you, once you put your opposition leaders in jail, you spend them on exile, or you kill them, you cannot have political stability. And that's what is going on in Benin. Patrice Talon has driven opposition completely out of the political...
But is there any similarity to what is happening in Nigeria, Mr. Falana? Is there a similarity of that situation in Benin Republic or other countries where we are seeing military intervention, which brings you to the conclusion or to the inference that whatever that is happening in other West African region or countries is imminent in our country. Is Nigeria in the danger of a military coup? God forbid.
So I will answer your question this. Nigeria has a challenge more than any of these countries to stabilize the region. And to do that effectively, as Nigeria has done in the past, whether, you want to talk about Sierra Leone and Liberia, where Nigeria contributed immensely to restore democracy in those two countries, or even in the Gambia, again, where Nigeria in 2017 intervened and ensure that Yaya Jame was treated like a bull in the China shop. Now, even currently, there's a new system, a dangerous precedent in Africa, whereby President Umaru Mbalo thought that he was losing election in Guinea-Bissau. What did he do? He called his friends in the military wing of his political party, to take over, to sack him, to take over power. Now, in the case of right now, the opposition leader in that country, Frederick Da Costa, is currently hauled up in the Nigerian embassy in that country. And Nigeria has insisted his life must be preserved. But we are insisting that the result of the election that have been concluded, according to former President Jonathan, must be released. The report must be released. The case of Nigeria, because we are part of the region, the military guys meet regularly in classes, in conferences, and whenever they discover that the economy is in a bad shape, because the civilian governments, all of them, including Nigeria, implementing neoliberal policies dictated by the South Africa. And so the people are unhappy. All saved Pakistan for now. But the people are not trooped to the street yet. That's Sunday morning. It will be difficult for French troops and Nigerian troops to stop the coup. Whereas in the case of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, even Guinea, people took to the streets to welcome the political opportunists in uniform. So if we want to have political stability in Nigeria, you want to address the crisis of the economy. You must address poverty. You must address illiteracy. You must address insecurity of life and property. Two, you must show that the political space will not shrink as it is now. You have a shrinking of the political space. That must stop. There must be freedom of expression. You can't be charging people with all manners of offenses for expressing their views about the affairs of our country. And more importantly, INEC must open the political space and allow ideological-based political parties to be registered and challenge the status quo. Right now, the INEC is not prepared.
Mr. Falano,
to open the political.
Let me quickly jump in.
Yes.
I'm wondering, and that those who also be asking the question, why is President Tinubu more interested in Benin Republic situation than he is in other coup situation? Guinea-Bissau, for example, did the president deploy troops there? In Chad or whatever, Niger or whatever other countries there is experiencing some kind of unrest or the other, did we take the kind of action that the president that had to now deploy military troops and boots on the ground in that country? Why is Benin Republic so much of a concern for this administration and President Bola Tinubu in particular?
This is not the first time it has happened. In 2003, the Prime Minister of Sao Tome and Principe, Mr. Frederick Menezes, was visiting Nigeria. President Obasanjo was in charge. He was in Abuja when there was an announcement of a coup in that country. President Obasanjo, not the coup leader. You had better hand over and disappear from the presidential villa. Otherwise, I will send a battalion, just a battalion, to remove you and other rascals from power. Of course, they had to leave because for the fear that Nigeria might invade that country. In the case of what you are aware of Sierra Leone and Liberia, President Chancellor was brought to Nigeria before he was handed over to the Special Court for Sierra Leone. Tanko, was brought to Abuja. So, and Nigeria has been playing this role. In 2017, Nigeria immediately took out, the opposition leader who had won the election, Adama Barrow. Otherwise, Yahya Jammeh would have killed them. So we've intervened in all cases where there has been coup. But what has happened, like I said, Benin is different from Niger, different from Burkina Faso, different from Mali. Once the people troop out, it's difficult for an invader, any country to invade it, because you have to fight the people who were on the street, not just the coup plotters who were isolated on Sunday. So you need to study what happened on Sunday. The guys went too early to the radio station. They hadn't captured anywhere, even the presidential villa that they attacked. So that was what happened. If it were the other way around, you can be very sure Beninite people will have to the street. In the case of Niger, in the case of Burkina Faso, in the case of Mali, people are on the street. People are today.
All right.
Protest against any invasion. So it's dangerous. And the challenge before civilian government, democratic government, is to ensure that we do not play into the hands of military opportunity who are waiting in the wings.
All right.
To take advantage of mass discontent, mass disenchantment, to take over power.
All right. Thank you so much. Mr. Femi Falana, former president of the African Bar Association and senior advocate of Nigeria.
Former
I said former president of yeah, that's what I said.
West African Bar
Association, sorry. And senior advocate of Nigeria. Thanks so much indeed, Mr. Falana. And enjoy your time and that lovely beach, except if it's virtual. Is that virtual or something? I guess it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Well, let's tell you that Governor of Osun State, Senator Ademola Adeleke, has now announced his new political party. Governor Adeleke, a few minutes ago, has now moved to Accord Party. That's perhaps the party, a platform where he might be contesting for re-election in Osun State. Days ago, Governor Adeleke had made an announcement that he's moving out of the People's Democratic Party. So 2 PDP governors in one night made a decision to dump the PDP, one to the APC, another to the Accord Party. We'll take a break, everyone, but when we return, we'll get some military experience and expert opinion on the security situation in Nigeria, the intervention of President Bola Tinubu, the coup trend that we see around West Africa and Africa, and what this means for democracy, insecurity in Nigeria, and the way forward. Mr. Malik Ado Ibrahim is a 2023 YPP presidential candidate, energy, and security consultant. He'll be speaking with us after this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get some expert perspectives to what is happening in Nigeria. The abductions we've seen, the release of 100 of those school children that we saw in Niger State, which happened on Sunday night and crossing into Monday when they were received yesterday by Governor Bago. And of course, the decision of President Bola Tinubu to move in with troops to Benin Republic. And for example, the implication of that situation in Benin Republic in the Nigerian political scene. I'm being joined by the 2023 YPP presidential candidate, Nigeria and security consultant, Prince Malik Ado Ibrahim is live for us here in our studio. It's a pleasure having you tonight on the program.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, you've got some military experience, some military training, and you look at it, and how do you describe or assess the Nigerian security situation?
Well, poor. And the biggest problem we have is not that we don't have the right kind of troop motivation. We have very able and capable soldiers. We have an incredible advantage with the Air Force and the air superiority that we have. The enemy doesn't have an Air Force. But we're lacking a lot of the simple things that need to get in line before we can, really defeat these issues on the ground. And mostly it's in the intelligence gathering, the lack of that, and the ability for us to be able to do what we did in Benin over this weekend, which for me really indicates that the ISR capabilities of Nigeria are not there, and the fact that we can have precision strikes on a military base also lets us know that somebody was giving intelligence so that the Air Force can really interdict properly and have precision bombing on a military base. So I would assume that the French were giving good advice as to where the targets were, and we delivered exceptional results from a very capable Air Force.
There are those who will say, how is it that Nigeria swiftly move with military intervention into Benin Republic to douse the tension, but has the country been able to do same on its own soil? It's got the stamina to muscle and pull his weight on the West African nation, but when has he been able to do that on civil environment and this kind of insecurity we've seen in the country? See schools that we are having abductions, see communities that have been ravaged by these terrorists and these bandits. Does it mean that we have military capacity for external interference or external activity, and we lack what it takes to hold our own territory tight? Do we lack the intelligence, the technology, or what exactly is wrong? Because there are those experts saying it's a joke, isn't it? When you went to Benin Republic, why didn't you pay that attention at home here?
That's the contradiction that we are facing in the last 48 or so hours. I think the president did the right thing. One of the premium edicts from the Civil War was the concentric circles. The countries around us must remain protected so that it reinforces our democracy. And the president going into Benin, I think there's sort of a parallel, asking for permission from the Senate, and then also knowing that the ECOWAS community allows you to be able to do something like that. Benin is close to the center of Nigeria's economy, next to Lagos. We must make sure that is protected. And I think a lot of us have forgotten that is the closeness in which we, as a country, are to destroying our national economy. If Lagos goes...
So you agree for the president's intervention?
I think it was a very wise and very clever, designed political statement, not just to the other African countries that are looking at us maybe because we're a bit weak in our national defense, but for us to save our country and to save the economy of this country. Lagos needed to be protected, and the rights given to him under the ECOWAS rules allowed him to be able to make that decision very quickly.
So why has it been difficult for our defenses internally? Has been difficult. And I know some of the things that you're doing with countries like Turkey, so countries like Saudi Arabia, because I'm one of those who think that maybe we lack the capacity of the eyes and the skies to be able to monitor what is going on. I've spoken with some guys who headed the Nigerian Space Research Agency, who said, this is the capacity of our satellite. This is what we have, this is what we don't have. We have one military, we have one communications, and we are planning. This president has approved 4 more satellites to enable us. So in terms of capacity, eyes in the sky technology and digital innovation to be able to monitor our territories, are we that poor for us to be able to hold our ground?
Well, to be very direct and blatant, we don't have anything that anybody has said to you. We don't have it. NIGCOMSAT is dead. It doesn't exist. We're borrowing information.
There's an organization like that. Well, they have another office. They have another office in Canada.
The satellite is deorbited. It's not doing what it could do. And even when it could do what it could and designed to be able to do, it was not utilized properly. Our eyes in the skies are now borrowing from other countries. Look, I run an agency within my company that does LEOSATs, low Earth orbiting satellites. And we're able to see a lot of things on behalf of other countries using imaging, not video. And we lack that capability.
As a country?
As a country.
But your own company does that on behalf of other nations?
We're using it in Sudan to help. We're using it for deforestation for the environmental agencies. But I'm sure they know we do it because it's not a secret, and we're doing it with the consent of many nations internationally. And we're using constellations that allow us to be able to even have historical data on the environment in the Northeast, the Northwest, the pipelines of this country. It's all there. The willingness and the ability to do that, it depends on who's the chief at the time. And I think this is why I'm a little bit more optimistic today than I've ever been about the situation with our military. For the first time in a long time, we have a minister that is, presently just disengaged from the military. So he understands the architecture of the military today as the CDS. That has been something we have lacked, and we need to be very careful about. General Musa, as the minister, and a recently disengaged CDS, has a very good insight as to the capabilities of the military. And I think for the first time, we should also allow for the service chiefs to report directly to a minister that has capacity and capability instead of running to the president all the time. If this is done, we have the ability to give General Musa, and we have the ability to give General Musa the tools that he needs. I think not only will we crush the insurgency, we will create the kind of environment that Nigerians could be proud of as far as our military capability and securing this nation. But we have to focus on the fact that 230 million people and less than 300,000 servicemen are not going to do anything.
But what do you make of the president's decisions? More troops to be on the ground. I know, logistically speaking, you may not be able to get new troops. From the moment of the order that has been given, it will take another 12 months or so to make it happen for you to have actual men on the ground.
Yes.
And that's a logistical nightmare.
It's
you have
training.
Immediate problems.
Absolutely.
But you cannot deploy immediately to cover up. But there are those who say technology will solve this half of the problem.
Absolutely.
Now, the question again, you touched on the capacity of the new minister. The office of the Minister of Defense, you know what people say on the inside, on the outside, is that is more or less an empty shell. The Minister of Defense office doesn't have the capacity, logistical and strategic capacity to be able to control the forces. The service chiefs are on their own. The NSA office coordinates intelligence and all that, but the Minister of Defense office does not really have the balls to be, apologies for using that word, doesn't have that capacity to be able to do just that. And the question is, what could be different on that? Yes, Musa has the experience, he has the present know-how, and he knows what the problems are, but that office, politically speaking, is just there. And those who are practically running things say, look, that office doesn't have the capacity, the expectations Nigerians have towards it.
In the last 10 years, I would say yes. But even before that, one of the most important things that any democracy has when the minister is there is that the ministry is the resource to get all the information about the state of readiness of any military organization and then deploy. Right now, the end user, the service chiefs are the ones collecting the budgets to go and buy things. That's never done in any other country around the world. The Minister of Defense knows the architecture that's necessary and then implements and acquires the necessary tools of the trade. We've lacked that over the last 10 years, and before that, the ministry was the one acquiring the assets. I believe that if the president allows General Musa to have that kind of power, we will see a completely different military architecture in Nigeria, and the state of readiness will change. If you overlay that with technology, using satellites, drone technology, listen, we have the ability to bring in some incredible assets into this country to be able to quell, using thermal imaging, using all sorts of infrared technology to be able to know where these people are.
Is it that those who are running our security don't know some of these technology that you're talking about? Or do we have them at all? Because there are those who will say the reconnaissance activity and how you coordinate all of the military, both air and boots on the ground, has to be in unison.
Yes.
As troops are going on the ground, they need support in the skies to be able to be ahead of the terrorists.
But even before that, you need the intel on the ground. You need the intelligence gathering so you know what you're going up against. Look, Sambisa Forest is not it's a massive place, but it backs up into the Lake Chad. We know where this problem is. I don't see why we're not flattening that whole forest and turning it into what during the Desert Storm and what the Israelis did to Hamas. You shock and awe the enemy, turn that place into a desert if you have to, and then send in the ground troops. You completely demoralize the force on the ground, and then you run in.
Well, you have a border
troops.
problem.
But the border problem, there's no way.
They keep coming in and out.
But if you push them to the extreme, look, the guys that are causing problems, when you see them, they're not Nigerians. They're Nigerians or they're Malians that are getting caught. They know Nigeria is a soft target. $1.4 billion was spent between 2024 and 2025 on ransoms. Billions of dollars. Now, Nigerians aren't doing that. These are people who are calling Fulani, but even the Fulani they speak, I don't think we speak here. These are people who have realized that we're a soft target. We're an easy target to get money from. Somebody kidnaps, another person camps, another person asks for the ransom. And then we know where they are and we cannot. Look, superiority of a nation is the air force that it has. We have incredible tools. They're not well serviced. I'm even discussing with the Air Force at the moment, why aren't we servicing our equipment? We had a jet that crashed in Niger State the other day, I think Saturday or Friday, and then we have the C-130 that held by the Burkina Faso on its way to get ferried.
You used to fly some.
I used to
fight with some.
I used to fight with some. I understand the state of readiness. That means, and I've worked in Sudan built an MRO there so that we can service goods with Safat before the civil war. I understand where the problems might be. I'm not in government. I can only give these sort of inferences. But the clarity of purpose that we must give our Minister of Defense right now, in this very moment, Nigeria is give him the tools, give him the ability. He's actually the boss of most of these service chiefs. Well, of course, he was just recently gone. Yeah. So understanding what they can do is the most important tool we have.
Give me a moment, please. We'll go on a break, but when we come back, we will conclude on our conversation. President Bola Tinubu needs to take some decisive action. He's taking some. How effective are those? And where do we go from here as a people? The year is running out, and some of these bandits need quick money. Well, who will give them? Are we going to put them out or pay them? That's going to be after this break. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, on the home stretch of our conversation on national security, the way out for our country, the decision of the government led by President Bola Tinubu, and perhaps what Nigerians should expect as the year is running out. Prince Malik Ado Ibrahim, a trained British soldier who's flown military aircrafts and trained and also knowledgeable in energy, and security strategic activities. Thanks so much indeed for your time tonight. So when I see people who have capacity, who's got some experience in some of these areas, so very exciting, especially when they are in Nigerian skin, and we have problems in some of these areas, and you imagine that Nigerians are useful at being a tool in other countries. They are being helping to find solutions to their problems. But we have capable people,
absolutely
knowledgeable people who are solving problems in other parts of the world. But if you are to tell President Bola Tinubu today about a solution to our problems, what would you tell him?
Well, a solution, not the solution. And I think it's to give us capacity, give the military capacity. The chain of command must come from the ministry. Of course, supervising coming from the NSA's office, but definitely this is the first time in a very long time that we've had a capable general at the helm of the military affairs. I'm not sure if having the political tools within the Ministry of Defense are there, but I think that General Musa is not the kind of person that's going to take no for an answer, and if the president gives him the right tools, he will deliver.
If you were the president, would you ask for extraordinary budget beyond maybe a triple of what we often budget for defense this time around?
Look, we've had so much.
It's got a reason. It's got a good pitch to say we are confronted, we are bombarded on all sides. Yes, economy is threatened. Our territory integrity is threatened. Give me the money. And I think that would it be a good idea? If we get the money today, we may not be able to get the equipment that we need today.
But if you get the money without planning what you're going to spend the money on, you've just had money thrown at another problem, and we've done that continually. The private sector in warfare internationally helps the military have eyes in the skies. Satellites are doing this. The army doesn't have the ability to launch satellites. That's one critical area. Drone warfare. Listen, we don't need jets. We have drones that have the capacity and the payload to be able to deliver devastation, absolute devastation, anywhere you find it using thermal. Like, even at night, they're not safe. The enemy isn't. I would use the tools. I would bring in private sector. I would make this a coordinated national effort to bring the Nigerian military strength back where it needs to be. There's always this fear that the military, if you power them too much, they will interfere in the civilian work. Listen, if that's going to happen, it's going to happen whether you have people with a pistol or somebody with a drone that's going to go into the villa. The enemy has tools. They're using drones as well. Do we have jamming drones? Do we have electronic warfare to be able to deflect some of these things? I believe that if people like myself and companies that are in Nigeria, very capable Nigerians that have this power to be able to provide services to the military, then we're going to see a big change. But it's a national effort for Nigeria, about Nigeria, not independent individuals trying to create a problem.
Prince Malik Ado Ibrahim was a YPP presidential candidate in 2023, a trained British soldier and a warfare pilot.
No, thank you.
Thanks so much indeed.
My pleasure, thank you.
That's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Okimaloe. God bless Nigeria.